Oh. Oh. Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. At the end of 2020, all of us took a collective sankalpa. Do you remember what that was? We observed how prevalent anger is in society, community, family, individuality. The emotion that precedes anger is annoyance. What precedes annoyance is attachment. Attachment, annoyance, anger. We all decided to be less annoyed. How many of you are better at being less annoyed from December to March? How many of you have become more annoyed from December to March? Don't forget. If you forget, you can't practice. From verses 2 to 11, obviously of Bhagavad Gita's chapter 1, the focus is Duryodhana's personality. He begins presenting himself as superior in how he's talking to Acharya Drona, referring to Acharya Bhishma, etc. He's showing this, yet there is an invisible fear. This invisible fear is because of his wrong thinking. He's engaged in wrong speaking, wrong acting. And Duryodhana finally settles, or we come to understand, that he is inferior. He starts off as presenting himself as superior. Really, he feels inferior. Shifting to Prince Arjuna from verses 28 to 37. Duryodhana, 10 verses. Prince Arjuna, 10 verses. He starts off expressing pity. Pity for everyone involved. The Kauravas, the Pandavas, himself. This pity is manifesting as imbalance. His mouth is dry, his skin is burning. This pity is manifesting at the physical level as imbalance. Further verses show attachment. He starts describing the grandfathers, the grandsons. This is his pity expressed in the mental equipment. And this finally, these are the verses nearing 37, this pity manifests as complacency. Complacency is Prince Arjuna's inferiority complex. He's saying pity, but his feeling is no different than Duryodhana's. They both feel they're superior, better than their responsibility. Prince Arjuna, that superiority complex becomes imbalance, attachment, complacency. And now he's in a phase of justifying his wrong thinking. All of this is showing a game of ego. Right now he's sharing with Sri Krishna, not about himself, but about others. The reference is changed in terms of this conflict, this responsibilities. What will happen to others? He's made this less emotional, more logical. We are on verse 41. Adharma bhavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankaraha. Listen carefully, because this verse and some other verses in the Bhagavad Gita are grossly misinterpreted. And when that happens, they're assigned the label of being controversial. Krishna, adharma abhibhavat, with the spread of, with the prevalence of adharma. This is Prince Arjuna's perspective, that killing is adharma, being killed is dharma. I've given you different references. If there's a wildfire and firefighters cut down trees to prevent a further spread of that wildfire, isn't that dharma? Or is that adharma? It's clear, it's dharma. I gave you another perspective yesterday. If a family is in an abusive relationship, physically, emotionally, them separating from that relationship, getting a divorce, is that dharma or adharma? It's dharma, yes. And if you still think otherwise, put yourself in that perspective. Put your child in that perspective. Here's another perspective so that we're clear that Prince Arjuna is engaged in wrong thinking. Internalize this more. If you were to kill your negative habits, you are killing your negative habits. Is that dharma or adharma? It's dharma, yes. If you were to be killed by your negative habits, is that dharma or adharma? Adharma, yes. So whatever perspective you look at it, Prince Arjuna's concept of dharma and adharma is moha, or confused. Next quarter. Pradushyanti kulastriyaha, with the spread of adharma, the kulastriya, the women of the family, pradushyanti, the English translation is corrupted. What you should feel is, will be endangered. Will be endangered. Throughout history, when invaders defeated a defending army, what happens next? Don't they go to the homes and continue that harm? With the women, with the children. That happens right now too with war crimes, atrocities. I've already shared with all of you, the Kauravas hunted the Pandavas in the jungle. The Kauravas were extremely greedy to not even give place to the Pandavas to live. Another reference, many of you know about this, the Kauravas were ready to strip Devi Draupadi in the presence of her family, her protectors. When the family and protectors are all destroyed because Prince Arjuna is ready to escape, ready to be killed, what will the Kauravas do when those family members and protectors are not there? When they're ready to do what they're ready to do in front of family members and protectors. So the women of the family will be endangered. Do you agree? And don't just reference the Mahabharata. Right now, that's happening. Third quarter, Strishu Dushtasu Varshneya. Another name for Sri Krishna is Varshneya. I'll explain that in time. With the corruption or the danger to the women of the family. He's presenting what's going to happen, but I want to open this up. What do the mothers, the women of a family do? Back in the day, during the time of the Mahabharata, certainly they were the facilitators of culture and religion. Religion and culture is the better order. Because the delineation of responsibilities was much more black and white. The men tended to the fields, tended to the wars. The women tended to the home, tended to the family. It was more black and white. And so what did they do at home? They facilitated religion and culture. Now the delineation is much, much, much more combined. Like in our home, I feel I facilitate the religion and culture in our home. Not that Sheila's irreligious or uncultured, but this is my focus. This is what my life is dedicated to. So I want you to be open to that. Back in the day, it was like this. Now it's not so much. And so Prince Arjuna is presenting that if women are endangered, so will the religion and culture. No different than if every university's textbooks were burned, all digital versions were destroyed. Isn't that a threat to knowledge systems? In the last quarter, Prince Arjuna is quite specific in indicating what danger is going to happen. Jayate varna sankaraha. With a weakened religion and culture, there will be a mixture of varnas. In your text, it probably says caste, a mixture of castes. The word caste is a very English word. Varna doesn't mean caste. Varna means color. That is the Sanskrit philosophy. What Prince Arjuna is trying to share here is the tradition of getting married was always based on a subjective science. That I know my strengths and weaknesses, and I would marry or mix with another person who can help me with my strengths and weaknesses. So that relationship was not about convenience or fun. It was a subjective science relationship. For those who are married to someone who's also engaged in self-development, your relationship is better, no? For those who are not married to someone who's engaged in self-development, your marriage is harder. The same goes with your family members. So this is what Prince Arjuna is trying to share, is that people will get into relationships where the subjective science is not the focus. Evolution is not highlighted. Such lovely thoughts from so many perspectives. I'll review this again when we continue with Bhagavad Gita on Monday. From inspiration to application. Your application was for you to share with another what the message of chapter 1 is. How many of you tried? Those who did, share with me in the chat, what is the teaching from the first 40 verses? Myself, attachment, lack of purpose. It is moha. Moha means confusion. The expression of confusion is fear. Chapter 1's teaching is fear. The source of this is selfishness. Moha from sakama, or fear from selfishness. That's what's manifesting through Duryodhana and Prince Arjuna. Your application for this morning, I want you to follow further and felicitate religion and culture and rate yourself. Rate yourself on how you're doing in following, furthering, and felicitating religion and culture. 1 is awful, 100 is awesome. So I want to know how you would rate yourself in your whole lifetime. Announcements. Tomorrow we have our freedom walk. The weather is more pleasant. Go outside. We need this. Shanti, shanti, shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.